Hey, Guru Nation, welcome back to the clinicaltrialsguru.com. My name is Dan Sfera. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you subscribe. And also, I have a brand new podcast out. It should be available on iTunes literally within the next couple of hours. We've got a lot of podcast exclusive episodes. This interview is going on YouTube and iTunes. And let's get right into the interview today. So, really fortunate today. We're really lucky to have Jenny Tang on. Jenny is a CRA. She's got I met her on Instagram. There's not that many clinical researchers on Instagram yet, so we all sort of know each other. And Jenny's got a really cool blog, which I never realized, Jenny. Like, I knew who you were, I followed you, but I never knew you had a blog. One day I just looked at your profile and then I saw a link and I read the article. Super good. And now you have another one, who does what in clinical research. And we can get into that a little bit, but let's talk about how you got started, because I think your story's super interesting. So you started out in bench research, right?
Right, yeah. Thank you for having me, Dan. I just want to first off and say that I've been following you for a while too, stalking you on Instagram and your platforms, because like you said, there's not a lot of people in our area. And I think I
Nope.
messaged you once through LinkedIn too, and I said, "Hey, what are you doing? And how can I get to where you're at?" And you just told me, you gave me good advice. You're like, just keep grinding, just keep doing it. And yeah, I'm trying to take action. And so thanks for complimenting my blog. I'm like, it is so small, but I'm trying to get more into it. So I really appreciate the exposure. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
started
sent
off.
the link to the students. And in fact, if you stick around later, we'll have students on. And yeah, they read your article. So yeah, talk about how you got started, like even before the bench research. Like just tell me about Jenny.
Yeah, so I don't know how far I should go back, but I guess I went to UCLA. So I'm currently in the East Coast, but I used to live in California. Dan mentioned, yep, I am a Raiders fan. So
UCLA Bruins. I'm an Arizona Wildcat.
yeah. Oh, wow, nice.
Hmm.
So I graduated, I did my undergrad in the sciences. Then honestly, I did not know what to do. And so during undergrad, I took a lot of research courses. And so I wanted to get into research. So I became a lab tech and I worked for a cancer research lab. And, I actually really liked it. I really enjoyed my projects. My PI was really great. And so I did that for about 2.5, 3 years. And then he was like, why don't you go apply to grad school? And so again, not knowingly, not much about where my career was going, I applied into grad school again at UCLA. And I was again in a cancer research lab doing my thesis. And it was studying B cell lymphoma. So
Hmm.
not only was I making the molecules on the bench top, I was also treating my animals with it. And I did about 3 years of it. And then I realized, I don't know if this is for me, it's great and I love the bench work of it, but I wanted to get further into the development of drugs, right? I knew I was so siloed. I was working with my molecules, but I wanted to know, I mean, the end goal was of course getting it into the clinic, right? With
Hmm.
patients, us doing cancer research. So that's what really prompted me about into clinical research. And so
Yeah,
I went informational interviews and yeah, try to get my foot in the door in clinical research.
that's awesome. And you may not know it, but your story is super inspirational. Um, and I would have never guessed that either. But so I'm teaching a CRA academy, right? Like, this is our second year now. We're finishing up our fourth class, and now we even have like the state of Maryland um, contracted with us to teach some of their members how to get into this industry. And I mean, I'm not sure you know yet, but your blog is going to get read by more people, and
Yeah.
they're going to love your story. Like, this is why I shared it with my students, and I'm trying to pull it up. So, uh, and I would have never known about you if it wasn't for your blog. Like, yeah, I would have seen you on Instagram, but there's like a dozen other researchers on there, and you're one of the few that actually has a blog. So, your blog post, 5 steps to getting your foot in the door in clinical research. That's the one that, for me, put Jenny on the map. Like, I know we talked before, but I didn't remember it, but this blog, it makes me remember you, right? So, and I think that will differentiate you um, amongst everyone else out there on social media. So, just talk about your story a little because I think many people are gonna find it super inspirational.
Yeah, so what really prompted me to even start this whole blog, and by no means am I a blogger. Even the website, it looks really kind of clunky, but I have my husband who's really tech savvy, so he helps me out with all that. But what
No, it
really
looks
got me
great.
into things, it's Squarespace for you. That's what it is.
Squarespace, yeah, I use Squarespace too. I love Squarespace.
Yeah, they make it really easy to make it look professional too, right? Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to create a space where I wanted, because I knew it wasn't just me getting into this industry and specifically the CRA role. It's so tough, but once you're in it, there's so many opportunities, but getting in it, it's so tough. And not to say that, oh, I'm in it and I made it now, but finally I am now an in-house CRA for a pharmaceutical company running, phase 1 oncology trials. So I really wanted to share my experience and provide some type of resource and value to folks who are in my situation too. And so I really try to look back now because it's been about 2 years since I kind of broke in, so to speak, right? And I wanted to organize my thoughts, and I came up with 5 steps.
Yeah, I see that. And so, step one, we'll go through the steps. So, for those who haven't read it, I'm going to put a link to it underneath this video. And if you're listening on iTunes, just go to bench2clinicalresearch.com. Okay, so step one, and you have a really good intro. What will people can read that? So step one, and a very like long but good blog post. Like we see a lot of short ones that are kind of vague, but this one's in depth. So everyone go check it out. Step one: leverage your current skill set. So okay, through my academy, I meet students all the time. Dan, I really want to get into research. My friend is doing it. They're making a lot of money, which is not always true, but it is a good career. And I want to do it, but I'm not in the industry. I'm not even in healthcare. I'm a banker, right? I just had this talk with someone yesterday. I'm a banker, and I make $70,000 a year, but I want to be a CRA. So what do I do? And so you say step one, leverage your current skill set. So what do you mean by that?
Yeah, I was feeling that too, where all the job descriptions I was seeing, it's all about, having clinical research. And I didn't have clinical research. Yes, I had cancer research, and that might be relatable, but I didn't have the clear-cut experiences that they would bullet out in those job descriptions. So what I mean by leverage your skills is that we all have transferable skills, whether we know it or not. And it's all about really understanding what the job description is asking. And that's why also I say, work backwards from the job description. So really try to understand what they're looking for. Let's say you're applying for an entry level clinical trial associate position where you have to manage the TMF, trial master file. I don't have that experience, but we all know how to manage, let's say, our own notes or own paperwork or our own receipts or coupons or, it's really about leveraging the skills that you already have and making it relatable to what they're asking for. Like you said, for a banker, they might not have clinical research experience, but they do have experience managing multiple accounts at once. So that can be, multitasking skills or let's say communication skills. I think in any job that we have, whether you're in sales, whether you're a CRA, whether you're a teacher, we all have communication skills, but it's all about learning how to leverage it to what the recruiters or the job description is looking for. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Reverse engineer it. One of my students who was here sitting at this desk last week, she is a debt collector for a bank. And she's going to be a CRA soon. She's really good. And she said, this is a lot like what I'm doing. Like all we do is document when we get on the phone with someone, we got to get their first name, their last name, or else it didn't happen. If you don't document, it didn't happen. That's a transferable skill to CRA. In fact, it's very similar. from that standpoint, right? So think about those kind of things. I think Jenny's spot on with that. Anything else you want to add about step one?
Yeah, I mean, I love making lists, and I talk about this in the blog. Sometimes all these thoughts and ideas might get just really abstract, and just it really helps to list out what your skills are and just jot them all down. And then on the other side, list out the skills that they're looking for and just kind of draw lines to where they all meet. And you'll be surprised. You do have transferable skills wherever you're coming from. Just trust in the process. Yeah.
Trust the process. That's good. Step two, get an entry level position. Be willing to start from the bottom. This is so important. So, graduates of our CRA Academy, we do pretty well. Like 25% get hired right away, which is, I think, is pretty high. Um, the other ones, they could get hired. Like the other half could get hired immediately if they were willing to be a study coordinator, right?
Mm.
First, do that for a year, do that for 2 years, and then be a CRA. Okay, patience, long term. But I get it. Some people, if they do that, they'll be taking a pay cut. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Start from the bottom. And I mean, honestly, even being a CRC, it's might not even be the bottom, right? But it's just being willing to take that risk. And like you said, it's for the long haul, right? So from my personal experience, I know I was getting a lot of slack from my friends and family when I was first applying for jobs, and I was at a pretty well-known biotech company in South San Francisco, working there, but it wasn't in clinical research. And it was very, I was a contractor, so the hourly rate was good, and company
Hmm.
lifestyle was great, and I made really great coworkers there. But I knew I needed to get into clinical research, and from informational interviews, I heard that you should be a site coordinator. And so I looked at the job descriptions, and I then of course saw the pay, and I said, oh my goodness, I don't know if I can do this. But then again, I knew that it's your best foot forward in clinical research. Until this day, whenever people ask me, where do I start? What do you recommend? I always point to being a CRC, because you go head first into clinical research and you just learn the ins and outs. Until this day, even though I'm a CRA, I still rely heavily on my experiences at the site, because you're kind of, again, reverse thinking. So now I understand when my coordinators call me and ask me, oh, why am I doing this? Or I did this. I completely understand where they're coming from, and you get kind of like this holistic view, and you're able to give them better guidance. Yeah. So
Hmm.
don't think about it as starting from the bottom. Just think about it, kind of like you're doing your time and you're gaining the experience that will ultimately help you later on.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's funny how we came to like similar conclusions without even looking at each other's stuff. So let me pull up step two. So, step two, get an entry level position. So, I've always been telling people, look, you don't have to do my CRA Academy. Okay. I think it's like pouring gasoline on the fire if you do, because we get you started with the internship. And so now you have experience, and now it makes it easier for you to go interview and to get hired. But you don't have to. Go be a patient recruiter. If two patient recruiters walk in my door right now, interrupt this interview and say, Dan, I'll work for you. You only pay me when the patient's randomized. I'll say, okay, go talk to Monica. You're hired. I don't even need to know you. You're hired. Research clinics will not turn you down. And you'll always have one or two that will probably turn you down. But for the most part, like, people are just not trying hard enough. I really think if you wanted to get in as a research patient recruiter, do that, actually perform for that site. Okay, and then tell them I'll continue recruiting, but I also want to be like a research assistant part time, right? And just work your way up. Like, but people don't want to do that. They don't want to do that, and it's not the only way, but in my opinion, that's one of the best ways to get in that people are not talking about. So, very funny how we kind of came to the same conclusions.
Awesome.
So, step two, anything else you want to add? Get an entry level.
Yeah, and I just want to echo what you said is that just know also that it's a stepping stone. And if anything, in this position, you're actually learning. And so they expect that of you, is that you're learning. And so if you do make mistakes, this is the time to make those mistakes. Just gather all the information that you can. And I think this also then segues into the third step, which is that I say that be a sponge, just learn it all. So while you're in this entry level step, take it to your advantage, learn everything that you can. And I know, you might not be happy with just filing TMF files or just doing patient recruitment, but branch out and ask your project manager or ask the CRA if you can do certain roles that are outside of your job description, and it gives you great exposure. And not only that, it lets them know that you're willing to do more and also that you want to further develop. So I think that's also
Yeah,
key.
like delay gratification, your first job, guess what? You don't have to like it. You're probably not going to like it. That's not going to be your job for the rest of your life. Okay, that's your stepping stone. That's your first step. Do it. Do it for 6 months. Put it on your resume. Re-upload your resume to Indeed, to Monster, Career, all those places. Recruiters will start calling you. Then you have leverage. You can either tell your current employer, hey, I'm getting these offers. Can I be promoted? No. Okay, see you later. I'm going with these guys, and just continue doing that. Okay, my first job, before I became a study coordinator, I wanted to be a CRA right out of college because I knew I couldn't get into med school. My grades were not good enough, right? So CRA was what I wanted to do. And my first job, I was transporting blood and urine from a hospital where patients were in the inpatient unit back to the clinic. And I was like, is this why I got my degree in molecular and cellular biology? Like to do this? Like I was doing like just those kind of jobs. But within 3 months, guess what? The coordinator left, another coordinator left. Who was there? Hey, Dan, you want to be a coordinator? Yes, I do. And then that's how you work your way up. So start off small. And yeah, I had the luxury. I was living at home at that time, so I didn't have expenses, but I was actually getting paid pretty good money to transport blood and urine from a inpatient unit to an outpatient unit. Like that's literally all I was doing all day. And ECG machines. Forgot about that. So that's not where you're going to end up. Just because that's where you start does not mean that's where you're going to end up. So very good, Jenny. Be a sponge. That's number 3. Number 4, and everyone needs to read this blog post. Number 4, very good one. Network, network, network. Very underrated.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, we're all told that, you have to have a perfect resume and, make sure everything is good. Yeah, that's good. But if you're just sitting there with your perfect resume and not networking and spreading the word of, of course, one, spreading your resume, but two, is spreading the word of where you ultimately want to go, I think that's the huge missing piece, right? Network, network, network. And what I specifically did and what I really recommend is to go on these informational interviews. Even this term, I didn't even know about it, but it was one of my former coworkers that told me that, hey, just go ask people what they do. And you'll be surprised, people love talking about themselves. And you know what, which is true. And so they call them informational interviews, which means, you contact people. So how I found people, it was actually LinkedIn. So you can do a quick search of writing, clinical research associate or clinical trial assistant, and then putting the company. So for instance, my company that I was working at, I put my company name and then I put CRA, and then it gave me a list of, it's kind of stalkerish, but then, you're trying to network and get in contact with them. And so it gave me a list of folks that I can speak with. And sure enough, I just email them and say, hey, do you have 5 minutes, 15 minutes for a cup of coffee? I'm really interested in how you got to where you're at. Can you give me any pointers? And
Mm-hmm.
sure enough, if you go in, I mean, you want to be mindful of everyone's time, right? Go in with clear instructions or clear idea of what you want to ask them. And also, it can even open up to further opportunities. So, one of the guys that I spoke with, he knew that I wanted to get into a CRA position, but then he knew that I didn't have the experience, and so I should probably go the CRC route first, coordinator route first. And so he actually knew someone and referred me to where I was able to get my job as a CRC. So it's all about networking, asking people, and getting the word out that, hey, Jenny wants to be a CRA. And
Hmm.
word travels fast, and that's how opportunities will come around too.
Yeah, and you said something interesting in the article, like 70% or something like,
Yeah,
uh, most jobs are not advertised for, right?
right. They're hidden. And I didn't know this either. But another thing is, so one, resumes, yes, we write a perfect resume, but I mean, they skim at it. So it's about 6 seconds, they said, average resume is read, which I thought was fascinating. So you spend all this time, but what is it for, right? And so that's why they say, internal referrals are actually how we get most of, or how companies get most of their positions. For instance, my company right now, before they even send out or make the job listing public, they first go through internal referrals, right? So people like to hire from employees or, people they know that have a good track record or come highly praised, right? And so with that said, it's really important to get your word out, and just keep networking. It really doesn't hurt. And with that said, like about 70% really of jobs, they never even make it to LinkedIn. They never make it to Indeed or Monster or your favorite job post. So it really helps to know a lot of people in different companies, so to speak, because they have the first or inside look on all these positions and can get you the right referral.
That's right. And even if they do advertise on LinkedIn or Indeed and they hire a recruiter to go find candidates, if you find a way to get yourself in front of that employer first, they're more likely to hire you because they don't have to pay the recruiter their fee, right? Like I've heard this from recruiters. Networking's super important. Like I want to add two things there. So first of all, one of my students, and I didn't tell her to do this, but now I'm telling everyone to do it. She's in Phoenix. So she joined I believe it was the SOCRA chapter in Phoenix. And
Mhm.
she's not a CRA, she's a banker. Okay. She joined the SOCRA chapter in Phoenix. She's networking, she's going to their meetings, she's meeting people. Now she came here to do her internship. So when she goes back, she can actually engage in the conversations that they're going to have, and she's meeting people. If they need to hire someone, she's there. They already know her. So I would suggest everyone, SOCRA or ACRP, they have chapters like in most major cities. So just do that. I don't think it costs anything to be a member. You don't need to take any test. They do have certifications, but you don't need to do that to join their meetups. Just do that. And then another thing I want to add. So yeah, like be a little bit of a stalker. So I use this strategy not for looking for jobs. I've only started doing that recently, but when I look for studies for my sites, I will find out who the project managers are because they're the decision makers typically for which sites get selected. And I'll hope that they have like a Twitter or an Instagram or a Facebook because they're all on LinkedIn, but then they get pitched on LinkedIn all the time too. So I go like the Twitter, Instagram, and these are people with like 200-300 followers, so they're not like that popular, and you can reach out to them if you notice that they like something that you like Jenny, you like the Raiders. So if there was a project manager that liked another football team, you can engage in a conversation. All right, after a while they're going to click on your profile, they're going to see who you are, and now when you pitch them, they know you. It's not a cold pitch, right? So stalking is good. I love stalking.
Mhm.
And
So
that sounds creepy, but I do. Okay, step 5, develop your skills. So what do you mean by that?
yeah, so I feel like, once I did get now to a CRA position, albeit, I mean, it's still an in-house CRA position, but still, I can imagine myself getting comfortable and, just kind of cruising it. And I mean, this is when if the moment you get complacent is when it starts to be dangerous, they say, right? And so what I mean by
Mhm.
keep developing skills is that keep looking for new tasks and keep your mind open to go on additional trainings. And like you mentioned about like clinical research societies like ACRP. So
Yep.
I've joined ACRP, and since then it opened up my my eyes to a whole world of all these training courses. And so even though, sometimes my company does pay for it and other times they don't, still, don't be afraid to invest in yourself because honestly, investing in yourself will go a long way. And so try to find trainings out there. There's a whole lot of free content out there. Try to go for that. But one that I recommend that I took actually is Barnet International. So they have a lot of neat trainings, and this is one where I find the companies that I've worked for, they're more willing to kind of pay for because it's pretty well established in our industry. So that's another good one. Another one is, find blogs. I find valuable content on your blog and listening to your videos and kind of branching out and always thinking about what's the next step. And that's, I think, what keeps us hungry, keeps us happy, and keeps us developing. Yeah, and also motivated. I think that's key.
Yeah, Jenny, keep blogging. So you have another blog post, which we can get in maybe during another interview. But just keep it up. You're doing really good, and it's hats off to you. I mean, you don't have to do this. Like most people who are CRAs, they just mind their own business. They keep the knowledge to themselves. But sharing is good. Take it from me. Like you may not see benefits right away, but after a while they start snowballing, and pretty soon you've got a business. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks for your support and all the exposure. I was so surprised when I got your message. Dan from the Clinical Trials Guru contacted me for
Yeah.
an interview. This is really an honor and a privilege. Thank you.
It's Instagram. People are laughing now about Instagram, but I'm telling you, it's
Yeah.
aging up. More people from our industry are going to be on it. You can stalk them. You can DM them. I mean, there's so many different things you can do. So thank you, Jenny, for coming on. Keep up the good work with the blog. We'll definitely do more interviews, maybe one for my podcast also. And feel free to stick around. At the top of the hour, I'm going to have our CRA Academy with the students in Maryland. So thank you very much. Jenny, where can people reach you? Tell them where they can reach you.
Right. So my Instagram handle is bench. Uh, what is it? I'm trying to look at it
What
right
is it?
now. My goodness. Do you have it up? Let's see.
Yeah. Bench
Oh, it's
to clinical.
right. Bench to clinical. And
Bench to
my
clinical.
is bench2clinicalresearch.com.
Okay, so bench to clinical is the profile.
Mhm.
And here it is, bench to clinical. And then bench2clinical.com is the website. And if you follow her on Instagram, she'll have a link in her profile to her latest blog post. Thank you very much, Jenny. And I'll put links underneath the video and the blog post as well. And if you're listening on iTunes, bench to clinical on Instagram, or you can call or text me 949-415-6256, and I will get you Jenny's info. Okay? Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone, for watching and listening. This is Dan from theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Take care.